Hello, everybody. Very nice to meet you all. And we are having this wonderful program. It's called Sparks of Awakening. So we have actually our co-host or the host, as well as wonderful Stephen La Rosa, and he's from the US in Nevada, right?
Yes,
Uh,
Nevada. Yes, sir.
Nevada, and
Hmm.
we'll give a chance uh, to introduce himself. And I'll welcome him now. And he's a certified master spiritual coach he has his own academy, Transformation Academy, and he's a well-known speaker about this reality. And he had many awakening incidents in his life, and we had a huge discussion, and it was very fascinating. And
Yes.
that's why we are trying to like show the world also, uh, with all our expertise and experiences. We are trying to show that there's something very wholesome, very pure, uh, and that is not separated or divided. uh, it's very wholesome and pure, and anybody can reach it, and they don't have to change their religions or any
Right.
ideology or these kind of things. So I'm
Yes.
Sanjeev. Many people
Yes.
call me Sanji, and some people add the sir to that.
Yes.
And so, but Sanji is totally
Yes.
fine. So, and yeah, I'm a meditation coach. We do like counseling, life coaching, mostly towards spirituality. We do a lot of charity work, and all these things even go up to like suicidal prevention. So the idea was like we start these kind of spaces where people can even join, and this will be recorded, and then we'll be publishing it or posting it on different platforms. So then you'll get a chance. But if you can attend the live sessions, you are to please be free, feel free to join, and you can ask questions or any. This is like open space, just like we said, like actually the beautiful word of sparks came from Steve, and yeah, and we both agreed on the word awakening, because yeah,
Hmm.
sometimes we seem
Yes.
like we are our though we have eyes, our eyelids are shut, no. So
Hmm.
so this is a time we should wake up in a very non-violent and a very positive and a very wholesome way, and do
Yes.
the
Yes.
for the benefit of humankind. So I uh, proudly welcome uh,
Mhm.
Steve. Steve, could you please introduce yourself? I did a small briefing, but I think
Yes.
yeah, you can.
Yes. Well, thank you, Sanjay. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. Um, my name is Steve LaRussa. I am a certified master spiritual coach. And just to give you a quick little backstory about me, I've recently come off of a 2 year spiritual awakening. My spiritual awakening was sparked by a lot of the
Mhm.
things that people go through. Usually spiritual awakenings are sparked by crises, extreme circumstances that people go through. And, I went through a rough time with my wife. We were on the verge of divorce. My son was going through a lot. I
Mhm.
had invested in some commercial real estate properties that weren't doing well. I had lost my job, and in all those circumstances, to make a long story short, basically began to raise my consciousness. Like, what are we here for? Why am I doing this? Why am I chasing this ideal of materialism, this ideal society's ideal of success and whatnot? And this can't be
Mhm.
what life is about. This can't be God's purpose for me. All those things. So that began my consciousness to shift. I went through my spiritual awakening. I went through what they call the dark night of the soul, which is an extremely tough time where you're questioning everything. You're
Mhm.
depressed, you're sad, you're in this battle between your ego self and your higher self. You're making that transition from everything that you've heard, everything that you've learned, everything that you were taught, and you're transitioning over to the spiritual realm, spiritual way of thinking things, spiritual way of doing things. So when you go through that, no, the things that you used to do, jobs, some people, some relationships, whatnot, they don't resonate with you anymore.
Mhm.
So that basically began my education into quantum physics, Dolores Cannon, Michael
Mhm.
Newton, Brian Wise. I went to the academy, Transformation Academy, to gain my spiritual certification,
Mm-hmm.
and I couldn't go back to the old me. And I wanted to help people that had been through similar situations I had, that were
Mm-hmm.
feeling lost or going through a spiritual awakening, or were wondering what it's all about and whatnot. And as a spiritual coach, I'll say this real quick: a spiritual coach's job is not to make you believe any certain thing. It's not to have you take on their beliefs or their way of thinking. It's just to expand your mind and get you out that box so that you come into
Mm-hmm.
yourself, that you realize your inner power, and you connect with your spiritual side. And you realize your truth. That's what it's about. So recently had an NDE, actually in October 2024. I
Mm-hmm.
had an NED, a near death experience, and a lot of synchronicities, a lot of messages from the angels, a lot of messages, a lot of signs. And yeah, so that's what got me to where I'm at right now. And nothing against anybody who studies. I believe wisdom is very important and it's necessary, but nothing beats experience. Actually, going through it, going through that circumstance. So that's what led me to do what I'm doing now, is to help other people and to be a light and help to raise the vibration, raise the light of the world, and do my part for that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's that's my introduction of why I'm here and why I do what I do.
Oh, that's wonderful. So
Yes.
today, what do you have in store, uh, Steve?
Well, today I kind of wanted to speak about, one of the things that I really have seen as a spiritual coach, that people come to me, is people have a lot of problems connecting spiritually. They have a lot of blocks. They have a lot of hindrances. They feel like they can't connect spiritually. So what I want to speak, there's many reasons for that. There's many reasons for that, and a lot of people are unique. A lot of reasons are unique to everyone of why that happens.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to speak on one of those issues that blocks and hinders our spiritual growth and connection. So that's what I wanted to speak about today.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, this is a crucial area, and we are
Yes,
really trying to work with people because humans are like mind, body, and soul. So,
yes,
whichever walk of life or no, whichever part they are in the world,
yes.
everybody has this, right? So,
Everybody. Yes.
then it is workable, and you can come out of many things. So, please, I'll leave it to you, Steve. Please elaborate on this topic. I think it will be
Mhm.
very useful for many people.
Yes, yes. So today I wanted to discuss a couple of issues that block or hinder our spiritual growth and connection. A lot of people I encounter ask, why can't I seem to connect spiritually?
Mhm.
As a spiritual coach, I'm seeing this more and more. Why can't I connect to my higher self, to source, to the universe, to God energy? I'm not receiving answers or guidance from my spiritual guides, angels, whatnot. I'm not getting the messages, signs, and answers. And I feel out of alignment. So a lot of them tell me, I do meditate, I practice yoga, I do Reiki, I nature walk, sound baths, all of the things that we
Mhm.
do to connect spiritually, which are great and necessary. They really are. But the reasons why people are having difficulty connecting spiritually and not feeling spiritually fulfilled, one major reason is people aren't getting the connection, is they don't deal with, or they fail to realize the importance of identifying and confronting internal and external issues that block or hinder our spiritual growth and connection.
Mhm.
So let me let me give you a little analogy.
Sh-
When we take a car in for an oil change, what do they do first? They check the mileage, they check the current oil level, they assess the condition of the car.
Mhm.
So we need to do that as well. We need to assess our current condition. We need to be self-aware and identify these issues that block and hinder us. Then what do? They drain the old oil. They take out
Mhm.
the old oil. So in turn, we also need to come to terms with, and whenever possible, eliminate those negative issues, feelings, thoughts, low vibrational feelings that lower our frequency. Because obviously, when our frequency is lowered, that hinders our connection to the universe, because the universe obviously operates on a high frequency.
Mhm.
So then, once that oil is drained, then and dealt with or whatnot, then we start adding that new oil. Then, when we do those practices that I mentioned earlier, they have more of effect. They have more of a impact on our spiritual life. We eliminate those things that block and hinder, and we have a better connection because we're operating on a higher frequency when we deal with those issues. So
Mhm.
I kind of you know I kind of compare it to bad Wi-Fi. I gave my son this analogy. You
Haha.
know how when we try to connect to our Wi-Fi, and sometimes we're listening to music or show or meditation or whatever you're listening to, and it's buffering. Buffering is not playing,
Mm.
and it's like, okay, a lot of people I've come in contact with, I noticed, are buffering spiritually. They're
Mm.
they're getting bits and pieces of their show or their music playing on their device, but they're not getting the whole thing playing. So our
Mhm.
goal is that one of the reasons for that quote unquote buffering is we're buffering because of those blockages, because of those hindrances that we don't deal with, and we're not
Mhm.
self aware of, and we don't identify. So we want that show to play continuously. We want to eliminate that buffering. We want to eliminate that
Mhm.
spiritual buffering and get a good connection. So I came up that with that to kind of explain it to my son. I said, well, you know what? I think that's a good explanation for everybody. Everybody
Mhm.
could
Mhm.
relate to that explanation. So any internal or external issues we have that are out of alignment with the universe's frequency, vibration, will cause blocks. Um, the universe, as we know, operates on a high vibrational frequency.
Mhm.
So our goal is to raise our frequencies and vibrations as much as possible. The more we do, the better connection we have. So increasing our vibration strengthens connection, growth, and the ability to receive the divine downloads, which I notice with a lot of my clients is one of the big issues, is that they feel like they're not hearing from the universe. They're not hearing from God. They're not connected to their higher self. They're not connected to their spirit team, and they're not getting those messages. They're not getting those answers, those signs, those synchronicities. Well, there's a lot of reasons for that. And when I deal with people one on one, everybody has their own personal issues, but they're in general there are a lot of issues for that. So obviously some of the high vibrational frequencies, joy, peace, happiness, gratefulness, and of course the biggest highest vibrational frequency of all in the universe is unconditional love. That's number one
Mhm.
above all. So, however, when we carry these low frequencies, low emotions, limited thinking, and we fail to be self-aware, or maybe we ignore them, and that's another thing people do. People think that it's not a big deal, or it's not affecting me, and it does affect you. It does affect you whether you know it or not.
Mhm.
And so this will interfere with those higher vibrational frequencies. So low vibrational frequencies, sadness, anger, envy, jealousy, unforgiveness, judgment,
Mhm.
and many more. So, so today I wanted to discuss one of the low vibrational frequencies that kind of goes under the radar, that people don't really see it and acknowledge it, and it kind of actually snowballs into more low vibrational frequencies. So today, though, I wanted to talk about expectations. So in particular, expectations that we have of others. Of course, we have expectations of ourselves, but more so, I want to talk about the expectations that we have of others, and how these basically snowball into lower vibration feelings and emotions. So, what are expectations?
Mhm.
Expectations are strong beliefs that something will happen or be the case in the future. So, the key word in that is an expectation is a belief. An expectation is a belief that we have.
Mhm.
So when we put our expectations on others, we're actually projecting our beliefs and we're forcing our beliefs on them. So now I'm going to take this a step further. Often we people view our beliefs as truths. A
Mhm.
lot of times we think what we believe, what we feel, what we think, we associate that with facts, or we associate that with being true. So now this simple expectation that we may view as harmless, or maybe we don't even recognize it at all, has been amplified. It has gone from a simple expectation to a belief to now something we perceive as being a truth. And that's where we get into a lot of trouble as far as falling into these low vibrations and lowering our vibration. That's what a lot of people do consciously or unconsciously. They view their beliefs as truths instead of opinions. Our expectations, what we think, feel, they're all a matter of an opinion or how we perceive things, and they're not truths. And that's
Mhm.
where people kind of confuse that. I feel like this and I believe that, and therefore it's true. That no, that's the wrong way to think about it, because when you think about that, you limit yourself. If you believe one thing or think one thing, how is your soul going to evolve and learn and grow if you're stuck on believing this is the truth or this is the truth? So that's very important in order for our soul to evolve and grow, is to get out of looking at things in that manner and just rethinking and reevaluating our thoughts, feelings, and emotions, especially expectations.
Mhm.
So to believe or accept something doesn't make it right, and we have no right to hold people to that are exceptions. That's our perception of something. Most situations can and will be interpreted differently and in different ways by different people. Most exceptions on how people should react or take in information will be interpreted differently. So who's to say who's right or wrong? Because there is no right or wrong. It's
Mhm.
just different interpretations, different feelings. So let me give you a quick story, and this this
Mhm.
happened not too long ago.
Okay.
Um, about expectations and how we get in trouble with them. Um, I'm going to change the names because I don't want
Yeah, yeah,
anybody to get
sure.
mad at me.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to change the names to
Yeah,
protect
yeah.
the innocent. Okay, all right.
Uh-huh.
So there's a guy I know. His name is Sam,
Uh-huh.
and we were talking. He was telling me a story about a situation that he was having with his best friend, John. So Sam explained to me that John had come into a large sum of money. So Sam told me, yeah, we've been best friends for 20 years. We've always helped each other out. We do this, we do that. I give him this, he gives me that. Okay, okay, great. That's great. What friends, I get this, what friends are supposed to do. So Sam was telling me that he expected, and that's the word he used.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm expecting $500 at least from John when he receives this money.
Mhm.
So Sam told me, yeah, I'm sure John will give me at least $500, when he comes this money. And I asked him, I said, well, did John actually tell you he was giving you that amount?
Uh-huh.
And Sam said no. But with the amount he's getting, I know John, and I'm sure he'll give me at least that amount. So
Mhm.
you see now he's already set up in his mind the expectation of,
Expectations.
of what he right of what he thinks he should get.
Mhm.
So when John received the money, guess what? Sam gave him $100.
Oh.
Gave him $100. So Sam was very upset. He had the expectation that turned into a belief, and he convinced himself he was right, and that was justified.
Uh-huh.
So later, Sam told me that well, if I had come into that amount of money, I would have given him at least $500. So
Uh-huh.
he's put. So you see what he's done. He's put his standard of what he felt he was right or what he would do in this situation on his friend.
Mhm.
That's what you would have done. Oh, and that's your opinion, that's your option, but there's no right or wrong. And I try to explain to him, he's not right or wrong for the amount he gave you. So Sam was carried this, turned this. Sam turned this into a judgment. So then he
Uh-huh.
started judging him for not giving him. He was convinced that he was right. Sam became angry and
Angry.
disappointed.
Uh-huh.
So now that one expectation has snowballed into anger,
Mhm.
disappointment, and judgment. And for not living up to his expectations, all because someone didn't live up to your expectations of what you thought was right or how I would have handled the situation. That's another thing. How
Mhm.
this is how I would have done it. So yeah, I'm sure this is the right thing. He should do that too, or they should do that too. So this expectation led to a host of low vibrational feelings. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So Sam goes on, with his day or whatnot. So let's say the next day, no, that was a true story. But let's say
Uh-huh.
next day he tries to engage in whatever spiritual practices he does to try to connect and grow. So he's holding on to this low vibration energy, thoughts, feelings.
Mhm.
It's festering. It's in there. What a lot of people do. We try to put it on the back burner. Oh, I'm okay. It doesn't bother me, and we try to
Mhm.
sweep it. We try to sweep it under the rug instead of dealing with it and facing it, because sweeping it under the rug and not being self-aware and not facing it is only leaving it to fester and to grow and to affect our high vibrational status and state. So he goes and he tries, and now, no, of course, when you do your practices, it does put you in a higher state of awareness, raise your vibration. But he can. There's no way that someone can get that connection,
Mhm.
holding on to that in the back of their mind. You can't get the full connection. You may get bits, like I said earlier, the buffering, the Wi-Fi, the bits and
Mhm.
pieces, but you cannot connect fully, festering that and holding on to that negative energy, that bad energy, the low vibrational energy.
Mhm.
So it's vital for people that I tell people to address it, identify it, and come to terms with it. And we may not always be able to eliminate it because we are
Mhm.
people. But the fact is be self-aware of what you're going through, why you're thinking it, how you feel, and turn that energy around and tell yourself, I have no right to judge. I have no right to put that expectation on a person. Just because I would have done A, B, and C, this person is not wrong for doing X, Y, and Z. They're not.
Mhm.
And it's important that we realize that. So one more, this is a kind of a funny one. The one more
Uh-huh.
quick one is that my wife, my wife loves to express herself in detail. She's a very detail oriented person. So a while back when we were moving, she sent a bunch of messages on Facebook to family and friends. And
Uh-huh.
when she tells people something, Sanji, she doesn't just tell them. She will write out 5 or 6 lengthy paragraphs just to tell people we're moving. You know what I mean? Every detail. We did this, then we're going to do that, and on this date we're doing this, and that's just how she is. And
Uh-huh.
so she wrote the family members and these lengthy books basically on us
Oh.
moving. And I looked at it, I was like, oh my goodness, that's in my opinion. I'm not judging. No, remember we don't judge. In
Uh-huh.
my opinion, that's a little lengthy. You're not right or wrong for, but that's a lot. That's a lot. I told her that's a lot. So here's the funny part: when the family members wrote back, there were a couple that she was close to, and she expected them. She expected, there's that word, our expectations. She expected them to address and write lengthy responses
Uh-huh.
to everything that she put out there. So she had one family member in particular who wrote back, "Oh, that's great," with a little heart emoji, the little red heart,
Uh-huh.
and she got so upset. She was so upset as a result of that. I can't believe that. I told my aunt or whoever it was
Uh-huh.
this, all these facts and everything, and all I get, she didn't address anything about what I said. She didn't comment on it. She just said that's great. And so she actually put the expectation on them to
Mhm.
respond in the same manner that she wrote that email to them, or that sent that message to them. She
Mhm.
expected that. And I said, you cannot do that. Just because you would have maybe have done that, if you had gotten that same message, you would, because you're detail oriented. We can't place that expectation on those people. And
Mhm.
now that snowballed into, well, do they care? And I don't understand. Do they care what we're going through? Do they care that we're moving? And you've
Mhm.
all these low vibration feelings start to come in and
Mhm.
start to fester. And I said, you cannot do that. You release it. You put what you put out there to people,
Mhm.
situations, and you release it. And you do not have any expectation of that outcome, because when
Mhm.
expectation leads to attachment, attachment leads to suffering, suffering leads to lower vibrations that bring down our higher vibration, and
Mhm.
in turn, what does that do? Blocks and interferes with our connection. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So
Yeah, yeah.
those are just some of the things how expectation does that. So it's important, like I said earlier, to be self-aware of our expectations, to not put them on others, to understand that everyone may or may not react or handle a situation the way you do.
Mhm.
So realizing that the way you would handle it, or the way I think it should be handled, or what I would say, doesn't make it right. So it's important that all individuals' views, insights, ways of handling things are respected. Because when we respect others' views, opinions, that raises our frequency. That shows amount of respect. That shows amount of non-judgment. That gets us out of those, slipping into those negative vibrations
Mhm.
that interrupt spiritual connection, the lower frequencies. So being aware, not becoming attached, overcoming what we perceive as right, we see how one low vibrational feeling can snowball and often turn into multiple low vibrational feelings. And that is a lot of times where I feel like people aren't self aware of that. And this is a little thing, but this happens all the time. It could happen with a spouse, how your spouse reacts to something, how your child, you may be on the job and you go the extra mile and you don't get a thank you, or you don't get the appreciation that you feel you deserve or that you expect from the boss. And then that turns into anger or resentment or whatnot. So it's important to realize that these little things happen every day. And
Mhm.
when we don't first acknowledge, okay, I'm gonna tell my wife this or my son that or my boss this. What I do is I release expectation or attachment to that. It's very important
Mhm.
to release that. Okay, I'm going to put this out to them. They may or may not accept it. I think it's a great idea, and I think we should do it, but I'm just going to put it out there with no expectations of what their response will be. You know what I mean? Because sometimes we get
Mhm.
so caught up. This is a great ideal, and we have to do this, and this makes sense. And it may not to that person. And then a lot of times when they don't receive it the way we think they do,
Mhm.
we get hurt, we get mad, we get resentful. And I try to come to terms with people that, it's not, a lot of times, I'm not saying this is easy, but it's important to be self aware of it. One, to try to do that before we give or get information, before we tell people something. Try to catch it then. Now, if we do slip into that after we don't get the response, we don't get the support, we don't get whatever we feel that we should get out of this, it's important to recognize it right there and to deal with it. Okay, I'm angry, I'm hurt, I'm sad about what their response is. They have a right to that response. They have a right to their feelings. They're not wrong for it. I'm going to detach from that. I'm going to accept what they're saying. I'm going to respect it and understand that that is their right to disagree or to respond in a different way than I would. And when you do that, you release yourself from being judging people, from being angry, from all those low vibrations, feelings and emotions. And what I tell people that is that a lot of times when I tell people it's like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize I was doing that or I was saying that
Mhm.
in that way. And they don't realize the impact that has when you hold on to that and we try to sweep it under the rug or forget it
Mhm.
or even downplay it or whatnot. And then we go off into our spiritual practices. And why don't I feel connected? Why am I not hearing from my higher self? Why am I not hearing from my spirit team? Why am I not feeling God, source, universal energy? Because you have baggage, you have low vibrational feelings, thoughts, and emotions that you've suppressed. And here's the one thing I tell people, a
Mhm.
lot of times we can fool other people, and a lot of times we can even fool ourselves, but we can't fool the universe. We can't, the universe operates on feelings, on energy, on frequencies, on emotions. And no matter how hard we try to suppress them, ignore them, or tell ourselves that we're okay or they don't matter, the universe picks up on all that negative energy, all that low vibrational feelings and
Mhm.
emotions. And it's important to come to grasp, to come to terms with that. And I know for me, I'll give another example. During my spiritual awakening, I I had a big problem with unforgiveness. And I realized that I tried to do exactly what I'm saying, sweep it under the rug, tell myself it doesn't matter, never really coming to terms and to grips with, never really forgiving, never
Mhm.
really letting it go, never really dealing with it. And one example of that is my mother. I went 20 years and didn't speak to my mother because of
Mhm.
being resentful and angry and unforgiving. And once I truly forgave her, once I told her I understand that you did what you did, because you were in a bad place. And once I stopped taking what she did to me personally and realized if she could do it all over again, she would have made different choices and done things differently. And to realize that I wasn't the only one hurt. A lot of times when we go through things, we only
Mhm.
see and recognize our hurt. But a lot of times, not all, but a lot of times, the people that hurt you or done you wrong, they're just as hurt by it that you are. And for a lot of years, I didn't recognize my mother's hurt. She had made some bad choices, wrong decisions, and she felt bad for basically abandoning me and my sister. And it's something that ate her up for all those 20 years. And what I did by forgiving is I gave her some peace, and she was able to let that finally forgive herself and let go. And that's very powerful. And once I did that, my what I received spiritually, the universe, the signs, the synchronicities, the messages, my connection grew leaps and bounds once I did that. Once I put out that high vibrational frequency and let go of that very low frequency of unforgiveness, of anger, of resentment, everything was amplified. My spirituality went up tremendously, and my connection went up tremendously by letting that go. And there's a lot of people that I deal with that, oh, I haven't forgiven my brother for this or my sister for that. And they don't realize, well, you know what? That's one reason why you're not connecting, why you're getting blocked or hindered, why you're buffering, as I said earlier. You know what I mean? And a lot of people, like the car change analogy, they try to put that that new oil on top of that old oil. It makes no sense. They drain that old oil so that car will run optimally and at its best. You drain that old oil before you put that new oil in. And a lot of people don't do that. They hold on to that old oil and they put the new oil in. Now, will the car still run? Will you still operate and still connect spiritually? Sure you can. Of course you can. But are you getting the best, most optimal, highest spiritual connection that you can get holding on to that baggage, holding on to that? Of course you're not. So I tell people, you have to be self-aware and go within. You can't avoid. A lot of people like to avoid. A lot of people, that was a horrible situation. I don't want to think about that. I don't want to deal with that anymore. Well, no, you have to think about it. You have to deal with it. You have to get the lesson out of it. You have to realize, come to terms with it so you can move on from it, so you can evolve spiritually, so your soul can evolve and start to truly flow and connect. And that's what I specialize in, is dealing with. I see that a lot, and some of it is you know limited beliefs, people stuck in what they were taught and what they believe and can't get out of that. There's so many different reasons, social or mental constructs, so, things socially, mentally, that we believe, that we've adopted as truths that we can't let go so we can expand our minds and grow spiritually. Because like I tell people, if you stay stuck in those limited beliefs, if you stay stuck in that limited way of thinking, if you don't expand outside of that and you hold on to what you believe is true, how are you growing or how are you evolving? And I tell people that when I take them on, the most important thing you can do is be willing to think outside the box and to let yourself go. To be able to connect, you have to let go of the old way of thinking and at least be open to releasing some of that. So there's a lot of that I see that people are dealing with and struggling with. And for me, recognizing those things that we see as small or little or not a factor, it's important to be self-aware of everything. It's easy for me to say, you know what, I know I didn't forget my mother for 20 years, and I have anger and I have unforgiveness and whatnot. But with expectations, like I spoke about with expectations, people don't realize how big a deal that is. How expectations, like I said, turn into beliefs, how beliefs turn into what we see as truth, and how we project that and put that on other people. That's a big deal. So yes, I these are a lot. I have a lot of different topics that cover a lot of hindrances and blockages with people, and it's very important that these are addressed. So yes.
Oh, that was wonderful. Thank you so much, Steve. Uh,
Yes.
so I just typed in some questions about this while you were talking, and
Yes.
yeah, it was not me like fiddling with the phone. So I was like typing
Oh,
questions,
yes.
and I was
Oh,
listening.
okay.
Yeah, I was listening.
Yes.
So coming back to the first part of, please have some water or oh yeah,
Oh,
please.
yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm. Yes.
So coming back to the first part of what you said, you talked about the dark night of the soul, no?
Yes.
So I also heard, and in meditation practices also we focus on this. So
Mhm.
and this is kind of like a stage. It's not easy, no? So regard to what you said, how would you explain it a little bit more, or through your experience, how was it?
Through my experience, obviously, yes, everyone's different and goes through different degrees of dark nights of the soul and different
Mm-hmm.
degrees of spiritual awakenings. For me, it was a total breakdown of beliefs. It was a struggle between my ego self and higher self. My ego self did not want to let go
Mm-hmm.
of those beliefs, of everything, of how I lived, people I dealt with, places I went, things I did.
Uh-huh.
I had become so comfortable, like a lot of people, we become so comfortable with them, even though our intuition, our soul is telling us, our higher self is telling us it's time to transition. It's time to move to the next level. We
Mm-hmm.
don't want to because we have that fear. A lot of people have the fear of the unknown. How can
Uh-huh.
I let this job go, this person go, this relationship go? But for me, it became a battle and I didn't understand it. And I didn't know what was going on. I became confused. I became depressed. I had this overwhelming feeling of not wanting to be here anymore, of wanting to go home. Like
Mhm.
I was in. I remember being in my apartment at the time, crying and just saying, "I don't understand this all. I want to go home. I don't want to be here." And I didn't even know where home was. I was
Mhm.
just saying, "I want to go home." I just know that this is not home where I'm at.
Mhm.
um, I was borderline, not really. I wouldn't say suicidal, but
Mhm.
just didn't want to do it anymore. I didn't want to do it anymore. And that battle between the two, not understanding and not wanting to let go, because the ego self doesn't want to let go. It doesn't want to relinquish
Mhm.
power. It doesn't want to relinquish control. And a lot of people are scared because what if I release all this? Where do I go? What do I do?
Mhm.
So it was a long battle. Um, I went through a lot of spiritual um, incidences. I had an incident where I broke down. I mentioned my near death experience I had a couple months ago. I had an outer body experience where I saw the white light and that God was giving me what I like to call divine downloads of all this information. You know, Steve, basically, these things that we chase, this wealth, this status, this ideal of who we are is not who we are. I got all these images in my head, all these things. I broke down crying. Um, I tried to get something to eat not too long ago. I had to spit it out. It tasted horrible, and I
Oh.
was in such a spiritual place of a transition. It was so hard because like I said, I had no one to turn to and nowhere to go to. And finally, thank goodness, I transitioned out of that and began to step into my calling and began to step out of that ego self into who I
Mhm.
truly am.
Mhm. Oh, very nice. Yeah. So you know why they call it the dark night of the soul?
Well, I believe that it's because that it is literally a dark night for
Uh-huh.
me. And what I believe is because you're having all of these dark, negative thoughts and feelings,
Mm.
the depression, the anger, the sadness, the confusion. So it's literally a dark time and a dark transition, and
Mhm.
it's a transition of conflict also.
Mhm.
Transitions are never easy,
Yeah,
but
no?
transitions are even harder when we fight them. And
Mhm.
what I tell people is that no matter how hard we fight, eventually, when we're going through this, the soul is always going to win. Because
Mhm.
I know that I tried, as I said earlier, tried to go back to old jobs and old ways of living, and they did not they didn't know they no longer resonate with you. They know you can it's impossible to do them. A lot of people ask me, well, how do I know if I'm going through a true awakening? How do I
Mhm.
know if I'm going through the dark night of soul? I said, well, there's a lot of things. I said one of the things is that what resonates with you. When you go through a true transformation and a true spiritual awakening, what you used to do, who you used to be, no longer resonates with you. You cannot
Mhm.
be that person anymore. And a lot of that's hard for people. I've had relationships fall off, friends, I've had family.
Mm-hmm.
which I didn't want to let go to. People don't want to let go. They don't want to let go to those
Mm-hmm.
that. But you have to realize is that you have to put yourself first. You have to put the evolution of your soul first. And you have to do that no matter how hard it hurts. There's a reason why that person, that job, that situation doesn't resonate with you because it's not truly who you are. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? And you're still
Mm-hmm.
learning who you are. You're still coming to who you are. So that's a difficult transition.
Oh, very nice, sir. So,
Yes.
in another place, you said like I cannot go to the old me, no? You said I cannot go back to the old me.
Yes. Yes.
So how do you define those two?
Well, put it this way: the old you is anything which you go through this transformation that you try to go back to that doesn't resonate. It's all about what resonates. And anything that doesn't feel genuine and pure and doesn't promote happiness and joy,
Mm-hmm.
that anything that you're trying to do, which will usually happen, that's your old self. That's your old
Mm-hmm.
way of living. That's your old self. And it's very easy to distinguish the two. I went back to a job and I'll give you an example.
Sure, sure.
You know, situation. Yes, there was a I worked for General Motors and Toyota manufacturing for a lot of years, and I've done
Mm-hmm.
quality control supervisor work. So I started a job a while back. This was maybe about not too long ago, about 6 7 months ago,
Mm-hmm.
and I was sitting there working. And I'm the type of person very friendly. I talk to people. I like to try to learn the job,
Mm-hmm.
learn my new environment, learn what I'm doing. And I got with a group of people and they were just very negative. They were instead of talking about the job, here's what you do, here's the ins and outs, here's what you learn, here's what we're teaching. They started talking about people.
Uh-huh.
They started talking about different departments and very negative. And it didn't my I literally began to get sick to my stomach. I couldn't take it.
Oh.
I could not take it anymore. Now the old me, I was never that kind of a mean person, but I would sit there and laugh and kind of listen and not really take part of it, but
Mm-hmm.
be around it to try. But I had to walk away from it. I couldn't do it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So anything like that, your soul, once you go through this transformation, it'll be very easy to distinguish what doesn't resonate with you anymore.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so especially the negatives, right? When you say old me,
Yes,
no? The negative
the
factors,
old
right?
the negative factors, the old you, and they may not even be anything negative. I'll give you another example. Is that what usually, not all the time, but usually
Mm-hmm.
when people truly go through a spiritual awakening and in contact with their higher selves, they have a problem with crowds, large amount of people, and a lot of noise.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I can't take the same kind of music that I listened to before. I can't take the same kind of being around the same kind of crowds because for me, I'm what you call an empath, a
Mm-hmm.
spiritual empath, where I pick up on all these energies. And when I'm in a crowd, I pick up on all these energies, negative, positive, everything. For me, it becomes overwhelming to be around that, to be
Mm-hmm.
around the noise and everything. So it's not just negative things because there's nothing wrong with large crowds or if you want to listen to a certain type of music or whatnot, but that doesn't resonate with me anymore. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I'm always listening to jazz and classical music and Sinfrego, the frequency music, healing music.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's what I do to connect now. So a lot of those, it doesn't necessarily always have to be something negative, but it's important to not hold on to those things and fight it, but over fear, and that's why people hold on. The people will.
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting. People will still do things that don't resonate with them, and they
Mm-hmm.
know they don't. They'll try to ignore their intuition, ignore their higher self, just because that's what they're used to.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very important to release that limited thinking, because what I tell people is, when you limit yourself, you limit the universe, you limit your
Mm-hmm.
connection, you limit everything. Limitations, putting limitations on yourself has a snowball effect. You limitate yourself, you limitate your connection, you limitate what the universe could do in your life. You put
Mm-hmm.
limitations on the universe, everything. So that's very important to overcome those things and to release it and let go and to realize that what I tell people is that this is a good thing. It may not feel like it at the time,
Mm-hmm.
I know you feel depressed. I know you feel angry. I know you feel confused. But this is a great thing. This is the beginning of a transition period. This is the beginning of a
Mm-hmm.
cleansing that you have to go through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. So sometimes it's like a wound that had collected pus, right? And
Yes,
if you want to be stuck with it, but sometimes
right.
you go to the doctors or no some physician, and then they sometimes pierce it and take the pus out, right? But it's for the
Yes,
better, no?
for
Because
the better. Yes, sometimes there has to be some pain, a little pain
ah,
to overcome the big pain.
yeah,
You know
no,
what I mean? You
uh-huh,
know, and that's a good analogy right there. Being sick, you need the shot or need the prick or we need to test your blood. So there's a little pain here, but compared to what the pain you've been going through, it's very minimal and very small.
mm-hmm.
And it's funny. That's a good point that you mentioned that because at the time, the pain that I was going through during this felt like the end of the world to me. It really
Mm-hmm.
did. It felt so
Yeah,
overwhelming.
no,
But then when I look back on my 53 years and realize all of that pain compared to that 2 years of pain was nothing. I had been going through. I'm 50. I've been going through 51 years of pain, and
mm-hmm.
and not knowing who I was, not in contact with my higher self, not in contact with my path and purpose. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
it's all about keeping the perspective of things. That's why I tell people your perspective of how you look at things changes how you feel about them and changes your vibration also. Looking at things instead of perceiving things as bad and horrible and terrible, perceive them as a lesson,
Mm-hmm.
as a evolution, as something you go through to evolve and get to the next level. Because once you start to perceive them differently, you don't keep reliving them as hurt and terrible and bad. I look back on it now and I don't see it like that anymore. I see it as a cleansing, as a purging. The things that come up is another situation. Things that we go through we consider bad, horrible, terrible. Those are just lessons that we have to learn for our soul evolution. Let's not look at them like that because every time you look back on those things, you relive that hurt, you relive that trauma, you relive those low vibrational feelings. When I tell people when you go through things like this, everyday things, situations that I'm talking about now, you look at them in a light of what did I learn from it? What did I gain from it? What can I do differently to prevent this from happening next time? Why did I need to go through this for my soul evolution? And once we look at it like that, and we look at it differently like that, that's another way to raise our vibration to stay out of those negative thoughts and feelings about things that we go through. Also,
Uh-huh. Oh, wonderful. So actually, I typed in many questions, but according to our time, maybe two more questions. Is it okay? No?
sure, I'll keep them brief. I promise.
No, no, no problem, no problem. It's okay. I would like
Yes,
to like discuss all these things. Uh, uh, yeah, if you're able to, we can even discuss these things. Huh? Are you?
yes, yes.
Is it all right?
Oh, that's no problem.
Okay, then fine. There's a couple of questions. Then. Yeah, we talk, we hear, no, like many people talk about spiritual blocks, no?
Yes,
And then I think it's important because, yeah, energy blocks, they say spiritual blocks or physical blocks, even the blood veins get blocked, right? So
yes,
our drains and everything sometimes gets blocked, no? Or clogged.
yes.
So in the aspect of spiritual blockage or even energy blockage, what would you say about it? Or how would you explain it?
Well, I would explain it that the energy and spiritual blocks sometimes can be very tricky and very sneaky and very
Yeah, yeah.
subtle. And what I try to get people to realize is that there's a lot of small, little, subtle things that we don't think of as blocking at all. That we don't
Mm-hmm.
even recognize. That we may ignore or we don't come to terms with. And little things. I'll give you a small little example.
Mm-hmm.
I tell people about being judgmental. A while back, my wife and I would watch, a TV show or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and there was this one show talking about it was called Strange Addictions or Strange Habits or whatever it's called. So we
Uh-huh.
watch these shows, and what do? We look at this person and say, "Oh my gosh, look what she's doing." And now this is a true example. There was one lady that literally she dressed up in a bunny suit, like a rabbit suit. She
Mm-hmm.
had to dress up in a rabbit suit to go outside because she was self-conscious and she couldn't interact
Mm-hmm.
with people. She wasn't comfortable in her normal skin. and she had to
Mhm.
put a mask on and get in a suit to be able to interact with people.
Mhm.
So they would film her and everything. And our first impression is to judge that person. What little judgments like this go a long way, because what we do is, oh my God, look at her, she's crazy. What's wrong with her? That's ridiculous. All these little judgments, and we don't
Mhm.
think about them, and we let it go. We turn the show off. We let it go. But what we need to realize is that that person is on their path and purpose. They're going through something through for their soul evolution. There's a lesson they need to learn. There's a process they need to go through. That's not our business. That's not something, because everybody needs to learn their own path and purpose. But
Mhm.
to look at people that way, to be even those small little judgmental things that we don't think about. Now, when I look at things like that, the better way to look at things is like, okay, wow, she's doing that. You know, God bless her. You pray for her. You may say to yourself, well, you know what? That's not something that I would do. That's not something that's optimal for me. But if that's her path and purpose, and that's what she chooses to do, you know, that's what she has to go through for whatever reason for her soul evolution. But when we look at people and we judge them and hold these little judgments against us, what is that doing? That's creating a low vibration, because the universe
Mhm.
doesn't judge. So we want to be on the same frequency, or get on the same frequency with the universe as much as possible. The universe doesn't judge us. So when we judge, even little small judgments that we don't recognize or think that are a big deal, they have effect on our frequency. The universe picks up on that, and
Mhm.
that's a negative thing.
Good, you brought up the thing, the name frequency. So people talk, and in your explanation, also you talked about high frequency, low frequency, right? So
Yes.
in many traditions, many ways they say about positives, negatives, or defilements, and then wholesome minds, and all these kind of things. So when you say high frequency and low frequency, how would you like to explain that a little bit more?
Well, yes. Well, everything in the universe is energy. Everything in the universe vibrates and emits an energy at a certain frequency.
Hmm.
Everything, everything we see, smell, touch, taste has its own frequency. So when it comes to us people, we're always emitting a frequency by whether what we think, what we
Hmm.
feel, what we perceive, our intentions or motives. Everything having to do with us emits a frequency, whether it's high or low vibration. The universe obviously operates on high vibrational frequencies. The highest vibrational frequency in the universe, and what keeps the universe running, is unconditional love. That's the highest frequency. Then you
Hmm.
have being grateful, which is number two. So our frequency dictates where we are, what we receive, what we get back. It's like a mirror. The universe is like a mirror. Excuse me. Whatever frequency you put off, that's reflected back to you. Negative, low vibration. If you're operating those frequencies, you're going to get, and you're going to create, um, manifest. That's where you're going to manifest
Hmm.
negative and low vibrational circumstances, people in your life. Frequencies are going to come back to you. When you operate on those higher frequencies, love, gratefulness, peace, joy, you're gonna be more in line, more in tune with the universe's frequency,
Hmm.
and as you're more in tune with it and more in line, you're more connected. But it's very important. Envy, greed, jealousy, being judgmental, expectations. There's many of unforgiveness. There's many of them, and
Hmm.
it's important to identify those low frequencies that interfere with our high frequencies and put us out of alignment with the universe.
Hmm. Oh, wonderful. So you spoke about three steps to take, no? Address it, identify it, and I couldn't catch the last one, please. The word. I was listening
Yes,
to it.
being self-aware, addressing, identifying it,
Oh, okay.
and then basically what I'll say is dealing with it. Dealing with it.
Uh-huh.
And dealing with it is coming to terms with it. Coming to terms with it.
Yeah.
Now, it may not be where we are human and we do have these feelings and whatnot. Some of these things we can eliminate, some of these things we can't. But as
Hmm.
long as we're self-aware of them, and when they do creep up on us, we catch them. Oh, I'll give you an example. Oh, I just made a judgment about someone.
Hmm.
Let me retract that. You know what? I have no right to judge this man, this woman, this child, whatnot. Let me let me take that, let me change that low vibration and raise it up. You know
Mhm.
what? Then we put this vibration out. They're on their path, they're on their purpose. They're going through what they have to go through for whatever reason for the benefit of their soul evolution. And we're all, because we're all evolving and we're all different levels of soul evolution. That's what I tell people. People ask me about suffering and about pain and why people do what they do. Well, because we're on different paths, we're on different purposes, we're on different levels of soul evolution. But what
Mhm.
I say it's important not to judge those people, and I'll give the people that we perceive as doing wrong or doing bad. Let's not judge them. They are just on a lower level of soul evolution. They're operating on a low frequency, and
Mhm.
they have to go through their soul evolution until they get and through reincarnation. If that's my belief,
Mhm.
in reincarnation into lives, working on their karmic debt, evolving spiritually. But I tell people, let's not look at them as wrong or bad or horrible people, because once again, that's a judgment. The universe
Mhm.
is not looking at that person like that. The universe doesn't look at that person like that. We are on different levels of soul evolution. And when you think of things, situations, and people like that, you stay out of that low vibrational frequency of judgment, which is important.
Mhm.
Oh, wonderful. So, finally, regarding our topic itself, I would like to ask about expectations. So,
Mhm.
it's in a way it's bit tricky. So, for example, for example, in our culture and all, no, they say if you
Mhm.
have any kind of expectation, you
Mhm.
will have to suffer at some point, no?
Yeah.
Which is in a way
Yes.
it's true, no? Okay, it's good to have expectations in a way, like okay, I
Mhm.
want to go to this goal, no, and
Yes.
you plan things and okay, this should be happen. So but like sometimes when, even when you go there, then there are
Mhm.
things like that change, or no, if you have something
Yes.
and you lose it. So my question is like, for example, yeah, it's a bit tricky question. I'm not trying to put you in the deep end, I'm just asking, so
Okay. Uh oh. Uh
it's not a
oh. Okay.
curveball or anything like
Oh. Oh. All right. Here we go.
that. Which- and then,
Oh. Uh oh.
so for example, uh, we have to have in a way no expectation for ourselves in a way to be in like regarding that later example you brought, no, I hope like your wife doesn't get to listen to this.
Oh.
You will not expect something or expect nothing, right? And
She's not going to be happy about me telling that story. She doesn't know
yeah,
I was
yeah,
going to.
yeah,
She doesn't
I
know
also.
about me telling that. No.
And then so in a way regarding to those stories and all, I know circumstances change, no, scenarios change, but so
Yes.
in a way we cannot have expectations that the other person will do the same, uh, and
Right.
in the
Right.
opposite way we have to expect maybe the opposite also, right?
Yes.
So it's kind
That,
of like a curve, and there are sometimes we have to have expectations, and we
mhm.
don't expect the other people to be or and
Right.
then
Yeah.
there are sometimes like we no, like the opposites. We
Yes.
cannot have any expectation that they will do,
Hmm.
or
And they.
and we can expect from them, like we can get a negative respect or negative response, or like even
Response.
yeah, even a scolding for doing something good, even, right? You try to
Yeah,
help
that's right.
someone.
That's true. That's true. We can do something. Someone can come to us, and we could do something that we feel is good and we feel is right, and not live up to their expectations, and we can get a scolding for that. And it's so the expectations work both ways. The
No.
expectations work both ways. It's a mirror of reflection, and that's a good point. But and there's also what I'm gonna get back to is
Sure.
having expectations of ourselves and having expectations of outcomes of things that we do. It's very important. This is a whole other topic, but I'll say this real quick. It's
Mhm.
very important that we don't have expectations. Goals are one thing. It's okay to have a goal, but
Mhm.
it's important not to have expectations. And I'll give you an example, real quick. Is that when I go to meetings and these mixers and networking and whatnot,
Mhm.
I tell the universe, thank you for this opportunity. I hope I'm able to help someone. I hope
Mhm.
please connect me with the right people the right places, the right things to help me grow spiritually so that I could be a light for someone else to grow spiritually. And I release it to the universe. I don't go there with this. Here's the problem. I don't go there with expectation. Okay, I'm going to this meeting and I'm going to meet people and I hope to get 5 new clients. I'm going to get 5 new clients. I don't put that expectation out there.
Mm-hmm.
You don't do that. You know what? There's 100 people there. I should at least get 5 clients out of this. No, because when you don't, now you're, like we said, you set yourself up for suffering and disappointment because it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't happen. And another thing, which is very important, what you do is you take away, like I tell people, there's our role and there's the universe's role. And people want to have so much control. And this is a whole other topic, but I'll say this real quick because
Mm-hmm.
it's in line with expectations. People want to have so much control. You do what you do. You follow your divine instinct, your divine spark, your divine guidance. You follow those things and you do your part to the best of your ability with no expectation of the outcome. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I go out there and put my card out there and I go to the mixers or I go network and boom, you release it to the universe. You don't have any expectations. That's
Mm-hmm.
the other thing people do. Well, there's 100 people there. There's no way I can't get 10 new clients out of 100 or 5 or whatnot. No, put it out there, do your part, release it, and let the universe work its magic and do its part with no
Mm-hmm.
expectations of the outcome.
Oh, wonderful. So
Yes,
I definitely think it was a wonderful uh, talk as well as a question and answer session and a discussion we did today. So
yes.
thank you so much, Steve. So please tell anybody who wants to reach you, how can they connect you with you if they want to talk with you or no, like or even get your
Oh,
services if needed. How
yes.
can they connect with you?
Yes, the best way to reach me is through my website,
Uh-huh.
which is spiritual alignment. So it's spiritual alignment
Mm-hmm.
SL. So spiritual alignment SL, my initial, Steve LaRussa, spiritual alignment SL.com. So there you can read a little bit more about my story, see what I do, what I offer.
Mm-hmm.
There is a email form there to contact me. And what I tell people is go to my website, and pray and meditate on it. And if it resonates with you, contact me. If it doesn't, that's
Mm-hmm.
fine. But you have to do what resonates with you. That's the important thing.
Mm-hmm.
So yes,
And surely we'll add the website, the link on our post
yes,
as well as the video. So then
okay,
anybody interested, they can contact you, no? So
yes,
thank you so much, Steve. And uh, how to say, like, hopefully we can do more discussions or talks and question and answer sessions like this. And I hope
yes,
we can bring light uh, to our societies and even the world
yes,
that seems in crumbles, no? And
yes,
and we should know because they show so many or like spread so many things even online. So we
mhm,
thought like we both talk. Why not we introduce or like we spread something wholesome, no? And
yes, exactly. That's
because
right.
yeah, and
Yeah.
hopefully we can do this next week also and weeks to come. And thank you everybody for joining, and even people who watch this afterwards. And please feel free to join. And we wish you maybe it's morning time for you, or evening, daytime, or night time. We hope you all have a wonderful
Mm.
time as well as a wonderful journey. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Namaste. Thank you.
Namaste.